What if I told you that the next 100 million XRP wallets aren't going to be opened by people? No onboarding flow, no KYC selfie, no human sitting at a phone deciding to buy crypto, just machines, autonomous software agents, spinning up wallets, executing transactions, moving value across borders in fractions of a second, around the clock, without a single human approving each payment. That is not a science fiction scenario. That is not a white paper. That is happening right now. And the infrastructure being quietly assembled around it points directly at one asset, one ledger, and one company sitting at the center of it all. While the crowd has been debating price charts and waiting for the next catalyst, Ripple has been making a series of moves that most retail investors haven't connected into a single picture yet. Today, I'm going to connect them for you. Because when you see the full architecture, the AI agent economy, the payment rails being wired underneath it, and exactly where XRP sits in that stack, the picture that emerges is not complicated. It is inevitable. Let's go. Welcome back. I'm the Calm Analyst. This channel exists for one reason: to cut through the noise, ignore the hype, and show you what is actually being built beneath the surface of the market. No moonboy fantasies, no panic selling, no cheerleading. Today we are going deep on what I believe is the most underappreciated catalyst in the entire crypto space right now: the convergence of AI agents and blockchain payment rails. And specifically, why that convergence runs directly through XRP and the XRP ledger. Let's pull back the curtain. Let's start with the hard truth that most people in this space are not saying out loud yet. Every major adoption narrative in crypto history has followed the same pattern. First, a use case emerges that sounds theoretical. Then infrastructure gets quietly built around it. Then one day the mainstream looks up and realizes the system is already running, and they miss the early window. We saw it with institutional Bitcoin custody. We saw it with DeFi liquidity protocols. We saw it with tokenized money market funds. And right now we are watching it happen again, in real time, with AI agent payments. Here is the core concept you need to understand. AI agents are software programs that operate autonomously. They don't just generate text or answer questions. They take actions. They book services. They execute contracts. They spin up infrastructure. They move money to get work done. And here's the problem those agents immediately run into when they try to operate in the traditional financial system. They can't. Dan Moorhead from Pantera Capital put it plainly. AI agents are not going to walk into a bank branch and open a checking account. They cannot be issued a credit card. They are not human entities that traditional financial rails were built to serve. And yet, if these agents are going to function as economic actors, they need money infrastructure. They need to pay for AWS servers. They need to get through paywalls. They need to buy domain names, spin up marketing programs, execute contracts across borders, all in real time, all automatically, often for amounts under 10 cents per transaction. You cannot do that over legacy rails. The fees alone make it mathematically impossible. A standard wire transfer costs $25 to $50. A credit card transaction clears in 1 to 3 business days and carries a fee structure built for human commerce. The entire traditional banking system was designed around one assumption: a human being is on one end of every transaction. That assumption is being invalidated right now at extraordinary speed. What AI agents need is money infrastructure that is borderless, instant, frictionless, and accessible without a human being in the loop. That is not a description of the banking system. That is a description of blockchain. And among all the blockchains competing for that use case, one has a specific, structural, measurable advantage: the XRP ledger. Transaction settlement in 3 to 5 seconds. Cost measured in fractions of a cent. No gas fee volatility. A fixed supply with no inflation diluting value. And now, critically, a growing stack of identity, trust, and compliance infrastructure being built specifically to make AI agents safe to deploy in real financial contexts. The machine economy needed a currency, and the infrastructure being assembled right now suggests XRP is being positioned to be exactly that. Let's do the math that the crowd is ignoring. McKinsey estimates agentic payments could reach $1 trillion in annual volume by 2030. Other analysts project that 15 to 25% of all e-commerce will be agentic in nature within the same time frame. Those are not crypto-native projections. Those are mainstream consulting firm numbers describing a structural shift in how commerce operates. Now let's think about what $1 trillion in agentic payment volume actually requires from a settlement infrastructure. Cross-border payments today process roughly $150 trillion in annual volume, and that is human-to-human, business-to-business commerce built on infrastructure that has existed for decades. The Nostro and Vostro system alone locks up an estimated $27 trillion in idle pre-funded liquidity just to make that existing volume work. Dead capital. Sitting still, doing nothing except buffering a system that wasn't designed for speed. AI agent commerce operates on a fundamentally different model. These transactions are high frequency, low value, often sub-dollar, and they need to settle instantly because an agent waiting 3 business days for a payment to clear cannot function. The volume will not look like one large wire transfer. It will look like millions of small transactions executing in parallel, every minute of every day. Here is the design math. The XRP ledger handles a transaction for approximately 0.00001 XRP. At current prices, that is a fraction of a cent. At $10 per XRP, it is still essentially zero relative to the transaction value. The cost structure is not just competitive with legacy rails, it makes legacy rails structurally unworkable for this use case by comparison. Now add the supply mechanics. 100 billion XRP total. Fixed cap. Approximately 55 to 57 billion in circulation. Escrow releasing 1 billion monthly, with the majority relocked. The circulating supply is not expanding meaningfully, but the demand use case, agentic payments, is being described by McKinsey as a $1 trillion market by the end of this decade. $1 trillion demand, fixed supply, near zero transaction costs, settlement in under 5 seconds. If you have a problem with where that math points, you don't have a problem with me. You have a problem with the laws of supply and demand. And those laws do not bend for sentiment. They do not care about fear or impatience. They operate on structure. And the structure here is as clear as I have ever seen it. This is not a prediction. It is a requirement of the system being built. Now let's stack the institutional evidence, because this is where the narrative stops being theoretical and starts being a documented series of concrete moves. Start with Ripple's investment in T54 Labs. Ripple joined a $5 million seed round for a San Francisco-based AI agent infrastructure startup, building identity, risk, and trust layer infrastructure for autonomous software agents executing real financial transactions. The focus: verification, fraud detection, and programmable payment rails. Monica Long, Ripple's president, tied this directly to the XRP ledger, saying Ripple expects DeFi adoption on the ledger to scale through 2026 and framing T54's stack as required trust infrastructure as agents start managing real capital. Required. Not optional, required. Then look at X402. An X402 facilitator is now live on the XRP ledger, enabling AI agents to pay for services using XRP and RLUSD over standard HTTP, without API keys or traditional accounts. The server responds with a 402 payment required status. The agent pays instantly. Settlement happens on-chain. This puts the XRP ledger alongside Coinbase and BNB Chain as early adopters of machine-native payment infrastructure. Then look at the MasterCard partnership. MasterCard, Ripple, WebBank, and Gemini are piloting a settlement scheme where MasterCard credit transactions tied to Gemini's card settle using RLUSD and the XRP ledger instead of traditional bank transfers. The first test of fully regulated fiat card settlement over a public blockchain. And MasterCard CEO Michael Miebach has confirmed they are moving from concept to execution, with stablecoins now treated as native currency on the MasterCard network and Agent Pay launching for AI-driven transactions. Let that sink in. The second largest card network on the planet, processing billions of transactions annually, is building an agent payment acceptance framework. And Ripple is wired into the settlement layer underneath it. Then look at the G-Treasury acquisition. Ripple acquired treasury management firm G-Treasury in a deal valued at approximately $1 billion. G-Treasury already processes trillions in annual payment volumes and serves 1,000 corporate clients across 160 countries. The strategic logic: Fuse Ripple's blockchain settlement rails with G Treasury's corporate cash management software. And under G Treasury's prior ownership, it had already launched AI-augmented agentic treasury capabilities, features that reduce manual effort, proactively flag risk, and recommend strategic actions to financial leaders. Automated workflows wired directly into decision-making infrastructure. With Ripple's acquisition, those AI-powered treasury functions are no longer just software recommendations. They can now trigger actual on-chain settlement. The AI flags a risk, the system acts, the transaction executes. No human approves each step. And Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, said it directly. The two megatrends reshaping financial services are AI and tokenization of financial assets. He said the banking system is being left behind through technology. A former prominent central bank governor told him the same thing privately. This is not fringe analysis. This is the CEO of BlackRock and the CEO of Ripple and the CEO of MasterCard, all pointing at the same intersection. AI agents, blockchain rails, real financial transactions, happening now. Let me be specific about the timeline, because this is where most people underestimate the speed. The Coinbase CEO stated that over 50% of code at Coinbase is now being written by AI agents. 60% of customer support inquiries are answered by agents. And Coinbase is issuing stablecoin wallets to those agents so they can operate financially, execute payments, spin up infrastructure, get work done without a human approving every transaction. That is not a 2030 projection. That is operational today at one of the most prominent companies in this industry. MoonPay has already launched MoonPay Agents, a developer portal that allows Claude-based AI agents to access and spend from non-custodial wallets with user set limits. Fully functional. Live now. Stellar has an AI agent kit, allowing agents to interact with blockchain accounts and smart contracts using Model Context Protocol. Chainlink is positioning its Oracle stack to let AI models trigger and control smart contracts across multiple chains. Avalanche is hosting Umio, a dedicated agent chain where each AI agent has a wallet, skills, and on-chain state, backed by $15 million in funding. The ecosystem is not waiting, it is moving. And the question for every project in this space is the same. Does your infrastructure meet the requirements of machine-native commerce? Speed, check. Cost, check. Compliance infrastructure, T54, being built now. Corporate treasury integration, G Treasury, acquired. Card network settlement, MasterCard, piloting now. The XRP Ledger's agentic stack is assembling at a pace that most retail investors have not yet recognized. The pieces are being put in place not by one announcement, but by a coordinated series of moves that only make sense when you see the full picture. The fuse is lit. And the transactions that will flow through this infrastructure, the millions of micropayments from agents operating around the clock, will drive volume on the XRP ledger at a scale that dwarfs anything the network has processed before. Here's what I want you to understand about timing. Every major technology platform in history has had a moment, a window, where the infrastructure was being assembled, but the mainstream had not yet recognized the scale of what was being built. A window where you could see the architecture clearly if you were paying attention, and position before the narrative became consensus. The internet had that window in 1996. Mobile had it in 2007. Cloud computing had it in 2010. In each case, the people who positioned early, not at the top of the hype cycle, not after the mainstream arrived, but during the quiet construction phase, captured the most asymmetric returns. We are in that window right now for the AI agent payment economy. The infrastructure is being built. The corporate partnerships are being signed. The investment is flowing in. The use case is being validated by the largest companies in the world. And the XRP ledger is being wired into that stack at the settlement layer. The window is not permanent. McKinsey is already publishing trillion-dollar projections. MasterCard is already executing. Coinbase is already issuing agent wallets. Once this narrative becomes consensus, once the mainstream financial press catches up to what Ripple, MasterCard, Coinbase, and BlackRock have already acknowledged, the positioning phase is over. Right now, the tokens are still priced at levels that reflect yesterday's use cases. What is being built is tomorrow's infrastructure. The question is not whether this moves. The question is who is still positioned when it does. Let me be fair. This is a channel built on rational analysis. The bull case for AI agents on the XRP ledger is compelling, but it is not without competition. Stellar has an agent kit. Avalanche is funding a dedicated agent chain. Chainlink is positioning its Oracle stack. Ethereum's EVM compatibility means a massive existing developer ecosystem can be pointed at this problem. Solana's throughput and low fees make it a credible contender. Coinbase and Circle are building stablecoin wallet infrastructure that is chain agnostic. This will not be a winner-take-all outcome. Multiple chains will capture portions of the agentic commerce market. But here is the structural advantage that matters. XRP's specific design profile, 3 to 5 second settlement, sub-cent transaction costs, fixed supply, and growing regulatory clarity specifically in the cross-border payment corridor, aligns more precisely with the requirements of machine-native commerce than any other asset in the market. And the Ripple ecosystem's corporate relationships, MasterCard, G-Treasury, the 1,000 enterprise clients in 160 countries, give it a distribution channel for agentic finance that is not available to most competitors. The pie is large enough for multiple players, but not all players are equally positioned for the specific use case that AI agent commerce represents. XRP's position in that stack is not promised, but based on the moves that have already been made, it is the most structurally aligned asset in the market for this moment. Here is what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Dan Moorhead from Pantera said, AI agents have to use crypto, not because crypto is trendy, but because legacy rails are structurally incapable of handling machine-native commerce. Brad Garlinghouse said, AI agents that become economic actors will need payment infrastructure that doesn't exist in the traditional system. Larry Fink said, AI and tokenization are the two megatrends reshaping all of financial services. MasterCard is executing, not planning, executing, on agent payment infrastructure wired into Ripple's settlement layer. Coinbase is issuing stablecoin wallets to AI agents today. McKinsey is projecting a $1 trillion agentic payment market by 2030. Every signal is pointing in the same direction at the same time. The crowd is still watching the price chart. They're still waiting for a catalyst they can read in a headline. They haven't connected the T54 investment to the X402 integration, to the MasterCard pilot, to the G-Treasury acquisition into a single, coherent picture. You just did. And that is the difference between reacting to the market and understanding the structure underneath it. Comment machine below if you made it all the way through this analysis. I want to know who the real ones are. The people who are watching the architecture being built, not just the price moving. If this kind of deep structure analysis is what you've been missing everywhere else you look, the subscribe button is right there. Because the next video is going to show you exactly what happens to XRP's transaction volume and its price the moment agentic commerce hits its first major inflection point. You don't want to miss that one. I'm the calm analyst. In a market fueled by emotion and noise, we thrive on data and composure. Stay patient, stay rational. The machines are coming, and the money they need already exists. We don't wait for the future, we plan for it.